And we're live. All right. Hello, you guys. Yes. Hi, Gecko Kid. We already have someone in chat who's seems to be very excited about today's creator spotlight. Hi, Gecko Kid. Thanks so much for joining us today. And everyone else who's watching us today, feel free to sound off in chat if you're watching. Welcome to another live stream on the Learn to Draw Manga channel. This is going to be a different type of live stream, you guys, because this is going to be a first in a series of interviews that we're going to be having with the creators behind um our Learn to Draw Manga anthology, which if you haven't read yet, go ahead and check out the link in the description. If you want to read original manga from indie mangakas, right? So if you want to read new manga, and if you want to read manga from our students, especially from the student that we'll be interviewing today, then feel free to go ahead and check out the link in the description, right? So you've got a lot of exciting stories in store for you, and also the chance to win very, very exciting prizes that we have up for a giveaway, right? If you read the anthology. So if you want to know more details and stick around, right? But today, first thing on the agenda is we are going to be talking to the first of many creators in our anthology who agreed to an interview this weekend, right? Which I was so thankful for. And it's always nice getting to know the creators behind the mangas because the anthology has been something that we've been working on for, I think, a good year now at this point. And getting to see our students' works go from very start, right? From rough drafts, rough sketches to finished manga has been such a pleasure to watch the last couple of months, right? And for this student in specifically that we'll be talking to today, I'm extra excited because I really enjoyed reading his manga in the anthology. So I won't talk about any spoilers because I want you guys to read the full manga, right? But we'll get into his whole manga, what his whole process was like, and hey, maybe inspire you to make your own manga, right? Which brings me to my next question, right? Do you guys want to make manga? Just raise your hand in chat if you want to make manga. Is making manga something that you've always dreamed of? Is it something that you've always wanted? Let me know. Or have you already made a manga and you want to keep making manga? Just raise your hand. Oh my goodness. So sorry about that, you guys. My internet glitched real quick. So sorry about that. My internet glitched. My bad. But yeah, okay, I'm back. I'm back. All right. Okay, so we have a couple of hands in chat. Ignore that. Ignore that. That was a glitch. Okay, so Claire says she wants to. Jolly Films says she wants to. Who else? I mean, how about the rest of the people who sent in their chat earlier? I want to know. I mean, are maybe if you haven't raised your hand, are you maybe feeling apprehensive or maybe you don't think you would be good enough to make manga? I'd love to know. Like, feel free to like send in your origin story. feel free to send in why in chat, right? If you want to make manga, feel free to raise your hand. But if making manga has been something that you've always thought about but never really seriously considered, then also maybe raise your hand, right? Or let me know why as well, if it's why it's something that maybe you've never seriously considered, right? I'd love to know. And that also, if you want to make manga, you're not the only one, right? We've talked to hundreds of students who applied, hundreds of aspiring artists who applied to our program wanting to make their own manga and wanting to get guidance, right? So fair to say, a lot of people want to make manga. They have ideas, they have characters, and even entire worlds in their head, right? But actually finishing a story, finishing a manga, putting it out there, that's where things get hard because, life gets busy, you overthink. Once you do start making a manga, right? First, you start out, okay, just endlessly polishing, always changing things, and suddenly weeks or months pass without you ever really finishing anything, right? And that's a common thing a lot of beginners experience, right? So raise your hand in chat if any of this is sounding familiar to you. Like, have you ever made a manga and just never finished it because of various reasons? Or have you just never made a manga because life gets in the way, you've just never had the time, or you're insecure and something's just always been holding you back from taking that first step? Right. So raise your hand in chat. I know a lot of the people who come to our lives, they experience this exact same thing, but it's something that a lot of a few people are kind of shy to admit because they feel like it's embarrassing. I don't want other people to know that I've just given up at this point, right? Which I get it, but I think I like to think like this is a safe space, right? That's why this channel is even here, right? We're here to talk about what may be holding you back from making your manga. We're here to um perhaps like clear away some doubts that you might be having, right? So feel free to sound off in chat if any of this is sounding familiar to you, if you've just given up making manga or you've given up before you even tried, right? So we do have a couple of people in chat. Jolly Film says they relate. UMIP is also raising their hands. I love anime says, I mean, I've written everything out. I just need to draw it. And Claire Sanchez said, at the moment, I just want to make a comic. But yeah, a fan comic. Ah, okay. Let me know. Feel free to let me know, Claire, like what type of fan comic. I'd love to know. I do read a couple of fan comics occasionally. So let me know. Maybe send in some recommendations. It depends on what the fandom is though. So let me know. Jolly Films, I keep rewriting the execution of it, but I just want to share it already. Yeah, so what might be holding you back, Jolly Films, right? Let me know, let me know. So for those of you who may think that making manga is impossible when you're busy with life and a job, right? Or a very other things like self-doubts, right? Or just not feeling good enough, then I hope you can take some notes from our guest today, okay? Because the person we're speaking to today is our student Hector, and Hector finished a full one shot in just 5 weeks and had it published in our official manga anthology. So if you've ever struggled with finishing your work, staying consistent, or trusting that your story is good enough to share, then I hope you listen closely to what Hector has to say about his experience. So without further ado, hi Hector. Feel free to unmute. And can you please introduce yourself and say hi to our audience?
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm very, very glad for this opportunity to share my experience with you. And yeah, I'm very excited. I've been drawing for all my life, as far as I remember, as I can remember. And making manga was a very this different process than what was thinking in the beginning. And thanks to this program, I've learned a lot more than what I could in most recent time.
All right. So excited to have you on, Hector. Let's give Hector some love in the chat, you guys. Say hi to Hector. This is Hector's first time on the channel since joining the program last year. And before like Hector joined the program, he actually attended one of our workshops on the channel, and that's what introduced him to the program essentially. So I'm so glad that after see meeting Hector for the first time at a workshop, we're here, he's in the program, and he's released his first ever, this is his first ever like finished one shot in our anthology, right? So it's come a long way, right? And I'm so excited to get into it. But first thing first, Hector, like who are you? Like can you describe yourself in one sentence, and like what do you do outside of making manga?
So I would describe myself as an all-around artist. All of my life, throughout all my life, I've been leaning towards art in different ways. Right now, the most prominent ones are making music. I play the guitar. I have a rock band, and I write songs. And I love to draw. I've always loved to draw, and almost everything I try to do, I try to lean it into art. And what I do out of manga is, of course, watching a lot of anime and entertainment. But mostly, I like to work out. I like to watch sports, mostly soccer, and I just pursue art in different forms, reading or literature or other types of media.
All right. So, and you, is it fair to say like when you were making this manga, you were also like working, right? Or
Yes.
yeah. So you guys, for some of you who may be like thinking, okay, I can't make a manga because I work full time. I don't have the time, or I have like a family or life and stuff like that. While those are reasonable excuses, right? We have you have proof here that Hector, even while working full time, still managed to finish his first one shot, right? So if you have the will for it and if you want to make time for it, then you totally can, right? It's 100% possible. You have like Hector right here. And for you, Hector, like how did you get into making manga? Like what inspired you?
So basically, I was kind of tired of watching the stories and the outcome not being what I expected. I believe all of us have a favorite anime or a favorite book, a favorite manga where you'd like the character to take a different decision and maybe move the story towards other more interesting for you or another more interesting topic for you. And that kind of got inspired me to why if I become the author, I can control whatever happens in the story and I can guide it towards where I want it to. And I believe manga is a very fun, interesting way to portray stories or tell stories, and basically gives you the magic wand to make it happen the however you want it to happen.
All right. That's a very, very interesting answer. Like, could you maybe recall off the top of your head any mangas in specific that might have inspired you? Maybe any mangakas or maybe just a series?
Yeah, before starting to get into the program and all of that, I read the whole Heart Punch manga from Tatsuki Fujimoto, and He, it's so cinematic that it caught me, and I kept reading and reading and reading. I was at work, and reading it at work. I came back to my house and keep reading it. It got me inspired because it looked like something that you can do that doesn't necessarily need to be perfect.
Mm,
He just needs to tell the story right. Because if you pay attention to his artwork, it sometimes it looks messy or like
yeah.
unfinished. Like some other artists are far more putting detail into their storytelling.
Yeah.
But this really inspired me to, oh, I also draw that kind of sketchy arts. I have that kind of sketchy art style. And I said, well, that could be some good inspiration for me. And I have a big passion for romantic comedy and love comedy mangas and animes, and that also inspired me a lot.
Yeah, it's very interesting you bring up Tatsuki Fujimoto, and I totally agree with your point about okay, maybe my art doesn't necessarily have to be that good to want to start making manga, right? Because when you brought up Tatsuki Fujimoto, I remember like before Fujimoto ever became a thing, or I think ever debuted properly as a mangaka, he was actually releasing like fan comics, web comics online. I'm not sure if it was fan comics. I do know they were web comics that looked really, really rough. Even even rougher than Hajime Isayama's like early works when he was just starting out with Attack on Titan, right? Before Attack on Titan was ever greenlit into a series. Tatsuki Fujimoto was literally releasing manga that was essentially just chicken scratch. Like almost you couldn't figure out what was going on for the most part, but it was entertaining, right? I mean, I couldn't figure it out because it was in Japanese, right? So for me, reading some of his like first works that were ever published online, like they were pretty hard for me to understand. One, because of the language barrier, and also two, because the art was just I couldn't figure it out, right? So I feel like Tatsuki Fujimoto has definitely leveled up since then, right? Especially if you compare his very first web comics to Fire Punch, like Hector said, or to Chainsaw Man, right? So Chainsaw Man, um, incredible, incredible artwork and also incredible storytelling, but that came after years of practice for Fujimoto, right? So it definitely took him a while to get there, but that doesn't mean he didn't start out right away as like this artistic genius, right? Definitely didn't. And you don't have to have like amazing art skills to want to start making manga as well, right? So you can be like Fujimoto and you can be like Hector as well, who they're still figuring out their art styles, they're still learning more as they keep practicing, right? So, what made you decide to join the One Shot Manga Drawing Program, Hector?
Well, it was mostly the being part of the what you said earlier, being part of one of the workshops that was streamed through the YouTube channel,
Mm.
and I was told to have potential in basically making my manga. And then I had my call, and I was preparing for a contest, but it was a one-shot contest that had to be a 56 page long. And
Ah,
I spoke with Trisha, and she told me you can forget about that because you're gonna burn out, and then you're gonna be not willing to draw anymore if you get to do it. But then she inspired me. Why don't you take it by step, and then learn from the coaches, learn from the mentors, get good feedback, get the best education you can get that we offer in this program, so that you can tell your story better and try out next year or try out to some other contest that can bring you in as one of the artists. Like if it's from a publisher or if it's like I don't know what kind of contest Shingeki no Kyojin won or Attack on Titan won. That it was not the Shonen Jump, from what I remember. But even that art isn't the best, but the story is good and well told, and that's what matters. And that is
yeah.
kind of what I was looking for because my drawing skills, I know that I can draw good for my own liking, of course.
Hmm.
And then being able to hear from someone else what kind of mistakes I'm making or how to correct a few other aspects like anatomy or get deeper into something that I had never explored, such as backgrounds or perspectives and that kind of scenarios, making sure the flow of the panels is correct and all of that. It's a great advance what I've gotten from the program.
Mm. So, is it fair to say like you've never like before joining the program, have you ever made a manga before? Or
No, I did try to make a comic book, but I started directly on the panels instead of thinking
mm,
of the story and instead of making the overall story arc, and I just got discouraged by it. And I
mm,
also wasn't feeling very inspired. Let's say my art wasn't the best at that time, but yeah, I only made like 1 2 pages, and I stopped right there. And then it took
Mm.
me a long time to start to draw again or to get back to it.
So I'm glad you joined our workshop then.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's
I'm so glad
definitely a
because
turning point.
yeah, turning point for sure because up until that point you were just starting things but not finishing them, right? And I think like you said, part of that was because you didn't think like your art was good enough and you felt like maybe I can't make a manga because like I don't think like my art can stand up to other mangakas out there, right? But I think once you realize that there are mangakas out there who can't draw that well, but they still put out like amazing mangas. Like off the top of my head, like Tatsuki Fujimoto, like Isayama, especially when he started out, and One Punch Man, right? One Sensei. Like these are just a few mangakas who started out with like really, really rough art, but they had amazing stories, right? That just couldn't be passed up. And if you have your own story that you believe in like 100% and you feel like, oh, this is something that I want to tell and I want others to follow along and read about, right? Then that enough is worth pursuing, like wanting to make a manga, especially if you want to put that story in manga form, right? Because maybe manga is something that you grew up with, you grew up reading, or it's a recent obsession because like reading manga just feels different from reading Western comics and other type of comics because I've had that feeling reading mangas and reading comics maybe from Marvel or from DC because I do read Western comics as well. It's just a different vibe. There's a different I can't explain it. Like manga for me is just easier to digest. I think part of it is because I grew up reading it. But for me, I get more invested in manga than I do with Western comics for some reason. And I think that's in large part because of um, manga is mostly, this is my own experience, okay? So I can't say if this is the same for Western comics. There may be Western comics that are like this as well. But for me, a lot of the mangas that I read, comparing it to some of the Western comics that I read like back in the day, like they really have a technique in getting the reader more invested than Western comics do. And that's part of because mangas are often in a first person perspective. Like the you're following the story through a specific character, the titular character, the protagonist, right? Whereas in Western comics, it's often like a third person point of view. It's like you're watching a movie and you're the viewer and you're not part of the story with Western comics. Whereas in like manga, it feels like you're the antagonist and you're fault because you know what the antagonist is thinking, you're following this antagonist, you're strictly going through the story through their perspective, right? And their manga is also a bit more slow paced than Western comics. It's a bit less information dense than Western comics. So I think that's why a manga is so special to a lot of mangakas like Hector, right? So once you got past that turning point, Hector, of finally finishing like your two-page one shot in our workshop, right? And you got into the program, you applied and you got in, and first day in the program, or maybe first week in the program, like what was your very first impression?
I saw a lot of great people. The chat was very lively from the beginning. Everybody showed their art, their progress. Everybody got words of encouragement for other fellow members of the community. The coach were very responsive, and I felt very, very backed up in the sense that these people are not gonna let me down. They're gonna at least, if not directly, like, hey, come on, keep drawing. They at least keep showing or sharing their progress, and that also inspires you a bit and also wants to makes you wonder if that person is doing this, maybe I can learn a thing or two from him or from her and then apply it to my own technique or maybe ask him directly, hey, how do you draw those eyes are so good, or can you have any tips with anatomy or stuff like that. There's always people willing to help and share whatever they have learned, and they also are very um, willing to listen to you and be helped from whatever you have to say. That was kind of my first impression of the of being part of the community. And also it felt very professional in the earliest meetings that we had, like the 2-page manga workshops or the mentoring sessions with the pro mangaka. But then you kind of lose the nerve, and you feel like you're communicating with your heart, and not just with a professional or from another person who has the same interest, but you're also kind of having a heart to heart sometimes.
I'm really glad to hear that, Hector. I mean, I've just been observing you guys in the program and I see just how much progress each of you guys are making. And it's always I sit in during the sessions every now and again and I watch how you guys interact with the mentors and interact with the coaches. And it's very nice to see you guys just focused on, okay, how can I improve my manga? How can I make it this better? And often like that enters into conversations of, okay, feedback where, okay, you might feel, okay, this is a lot of feedback. You might get intimidated by, oh, I have to change so much. Have you ever had that feeling like when getting feedback, and how do you like handle getting feedback just in general?
Yeah, in the very beginning, I was told that I might get something that I wouldn't like to hear.
Mm.
But my coach also said that it's not just that you don't want to hear that, or that you have the decision to make it the way they suggested for you, or you can stick to your own rules or to your own ideas, and then try to explore it that way. And that kind of got me some relief on maybe my work has been receiving too much feedback. Just recently, one of the in the with the editor notes with pro editor Vivi, we had one of my stories featured in one of the breakout rooms, and she told me that I need to put more into the ending of one of my next one shots, and to make sure that I deliver the theme of the story in a way that it's very impactful and has um, a good message delivered. And then I thought, oh, now my story doesn't feel like it's making sense anymore, or maybe I feel like I have to write it all over again. But then I got my personal one-on-one coaching call, and we kind of cleared that out a little bit better, polished it a little bit better. But yeah, it's sometimes you get very encouraged to do so. Like there are some times where you think, oh, this is storyboard that I submitted, it's not the best, but the mentors end up liking it, or having, oh, this is a very nice way to say to say this. I will just add this manpu, or change the panel flow a little bit, or sometimes something that I love about this mentoring session is when you can save panel or save space or make panels bigger. Like, oh, the way you're
Mm.
telling your story could be more efficient if you remove these two panels and make this one bigger with this different perspective, or with this less information, or adding a little bit more information to the panel. And that's really something that I am grateful for.
Yeah, I think that's a very common like point that I think mentors give our students is less is more, right? So if you have a page that seems packed with so many panels, right, and so many like speech boxes or maybe speech bubbles, right? So the more you add to it, like the more panels you add, the more speech bubbles you add, the more text you add, the more information gets laid out. And sometimes that can be overwhelming for a reader because when you're making a manga, you're not just an artist, you also have to think like a reader, right? So is this something that a reader can easily understand? That's one thing that pros always ask themselves, and that's why, okay, if it's too hard to understand, then less, right? Take out
Mm.
some information that maybe you can put somewhere else, or maybe put in the next page to space it out a bit more, right? And not overwhelm the reader like right away, right? So that's a principle that our mentors often have to remind our students of. So, since joining the program, Hector, you've released a one shot in our official manga anthology. Congratulations. Let's like give a hand for Hector in the chat, you guys. Congratulations on releasing your manga in the anthology. Your first ever like finished one shot in the anthology. Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel very proud of myself. In the past, I had a lot of trouble finishing just one drawing, let's say just one panel. but I gained so much confidence for the few months that I've been in the program that I just kind of had the idea of this story and started basically doing my thumbnails or writing my outline, filling out my ideation sheet and all of that. And I felt that I made real progress with that. And throughout my whole life, you said it earlier, I went from not finishing almost anything, starting everything, but not finishing it. And starting this one and finishing it in just 5 weeks was something that got me very inspired to do more.
Yeah. So what was it like making this in 5 weeks? Because 5 weeks is short for a beginner, right? Especially for someone who's never made a manga before. Like 5 weeks is a really good time, right? So what was it like making?
I had it easy because of one thing. I don't know if people are aware of the Inktober challenge. It's
Mm,
31 prompts for 31 days in October, and each day has a different thematic or it's a word, and you make an illustration out of that word, basically with ink, but also digital art is allowed, like in my case. So I've been doing that for since 2022. I did it in 2023. I did it in 2024, and I did it last year, which is this month that I spent doing this one. And the key was working within limitations. And let me be
mm,
clear on this. I want when I started the prompts, reading the prompts of the story, I kind of basically the knew how my characters would fit into each prompt and make the story have sense as well. And then I said, I'm gonna keep it very, very simple. I'm not gonna do more than 2 panels per prompt. I'm not gonna do more than 8 pages. I don't want to put more than five or and keep it between 4 and 5 panels per page. And that's one thing that helped me a lot. And one other rule that I had, since it's 1 prompt per day, I made sure to finish 1 panel per day, or at least the prompts. If it were more than 1 panel, I made sure make sure that I finished it within that day. And just building the habit of knowing exactly what I wanted to do and knowing that I was able to do it from my past experience in this challenge, and that's what really made me do it like focused work, a strict time. And I also was posting day by day on my social media each panel that I made, and seeing
mm,
people commenting and liking and telling me, oh, this is something that I enjoy. This is very sounds looks very interesting. This panel in particular is very detailed in your artwork, and listening and reading those kind of encouragement words make you want to do it more and be more excited about it.
all right. I'm so happy to hear that. And yeah, I mean, this is my first time. Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm sure you mentioned it in passing, but like you said, you were participating in the Inktober challenge like every year, right? And that's something that you just always done. And at that point, like writing or like creating within limitations is something that you'd gotten used to at that point, right? Because the Inktober challenge, it gives you a prompt and you just fulfill that prompt best as you can, right?
Yeah,
And you have to finish it within the day because you for the challenge, like you have to release something every day, right? So that gives you a clear deadline and no room to overthink, right? And to
that's right.
keep changing things, right? You just have to
It
focus on finishing. Yeah,
forces you to make a decision and then commit to that decision. Like
exactly.
you're not gonna have to, you don't have the chance to go back and redo or restructure whatever you've done. So that's a
Mm,
pretty good understanding of limitations or
yeah,
boundaries.
yeah. I mean, while setting limitations might seem like, mm, but I want because I know some aspiring mangakas like they just want to keep creating and just come up with anything they can think of, right? Experiment as much as they can. Well, that's fine. I think setting limitations isn't necessarily like putting limitations on yourself. No. I think if you think about it, it's good practice, right? Because it's not like you're just going to be doing one prompt and you're not going to make a manga after that ever again, right? The point is to keep making more and more manga as you go and not just stay stuck on one single project, right? So with every project that you work on, with every prompt that you start and finish, um, you keep improving after that, right? So you go with one prompt, then once you finish that, you go to the next prompt for another project, and once you finish that, you go to the next one, right? That's the whole point is that you practice, you keep building yourself up every project that you finish, right? Because your very first project isn't going to be perfect, right? For you, Hector, like how do you feel about like this very first project, this very first one shot? Like do you feel like it's perfect or do you feel like there was definitely like room for improvement?
Oh, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. One of the things that I can point out easily is that sometimes I do the kind of the same shot. Like if I had the camera and was recording a scene, I
Mm,
basically would be doing the same shot. And I spoke with that with I spoke about it with one of the mentors. I think it was Mentor Steph, and he told
mm,
me you can always go to vary your compositions, read a little about compositions, the rule of thirds, or the diagonal or the triangular. Like one of the panels in this page that we are showing right now on the screen. Um,
mm,
the on the first page, which is the one where they go on the land on the right bottom, where they have a like a hallway with fireflies lighting
yeah.
up the way.
Yeah, yeah.
I forced myself to work into a 2 point perspective for this
Mm,
particular panel
mm,
because I said, oh, I've done too much of the same looking all the characters from from the front in like they were in front of you, and I wanted to
mm,
make it more interesting and vary a little bit. Also, being in the editor notes helped me change my story or not the story but the way I show it, and
mm,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, not just uh, on the cinematography aspect of manga, but
mm,
also my my writing, of course, the placing of speech bubbles, maybe the
mm,
quantity of the panels, the size of the panels as well. Like I see some manga that expand the panel more than it should be, or more than the regular the cutaway or the
mm.
template guides. Like they print a large page and then they cut
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
they
They go
go out
beyond
of
the
frame
bleeds. Yeah.
and
All
leave the
right.
bleeds. They expand through that, and but I didn't want to go that far. I wanted to keep it the most simple, and that was
Mm,
one of the rules that I had. I'm gonna stay within the frame that is common or the most standard, and work from there. But in the
all
future, I
right.
would like to be able to break the rules. Like there's a I believe it was Stephen King
Yeah.
who said you can be the best author, but first make sure to learn the grammar rules, and then you will know how to break them and tell your story with different things. Or breaking those rules, but making it coherent, and to have sense, make sense. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I explored in this one.
It's definitely something that you want to aspire to, right? You want to get to a point where, okay, I know the basics. So now that I know the basics, I can start breaking rules, right? So I think you're on your way there with your finishing your very first project. You're definitely on your way there. So I think for you, I think finishing it, right? Even though there were parts of it where, okay, I could have improved this, I could have done better with this, right? At the end, you still finished it, right? So what
Yes.
was that moment like finally finishing it?
When I finished the last panel, I felt very happy and like, oh, this is over at last. I can rest now. I can take a little break because I gotta be honest. Throughout the making of this panel of this manga, I kind of went a little bit too hard on me, and I had pain in my wrist for a couple
Oh
of days. One
gosh.
of my fingers was like moving like crazy, like the nerve wasn't right, and I had to go back and do stretches and increase the strength of my muscles and that kind of stuff. But I also felt like relief and excited to do more. Basically, like if I did this just in just 5 weeks, what else can I do? If I spend more time, if I go through more of the mentor revisions, because I remember one of those revisions, I was suggested to change some panels, and I didn't quite do it. I went through mostly the most easy corrections that I could be
Mm,
made for this manga. In particular, the contrasts, making sure that the blacks and whites are well balanced, that my characters pop out of the image and not just blend with the background or too much gray in the whole manga so that you don't understand anything. And that kind of got me okay. This sounds more basic than drawing like 3 point perspective from or from a top view or from a worm view or I said, oh well, I have invested too much time. I don't really want to replace what I've done, and I did try, and I wasn't the best at it, or I didn't really make what I was looking for, or what the mentor suggested. That I said, well, I gotta stick to whatever I have right now. We're working on a timeline here on a deadline to make it to the compilation. So let's keep it the most simple way, and I can take those words and apply it to my next creation.
your next project. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really glad that this through this whole like back and forth process that you managed to end on a pro end on a manga that you feel like you can be satisfied with, right? But it's not enough. There's still the next project. So I'm really happy that you're already thinking about like work going on to the next project, right? I mean, I've seen your progress so far in the program, so I'm looking forward, definitely looking forward to the next project. So, what's been like what's it been like learning from pro mangaka mentors in the OMD program, right? Like you mentioned going through that revision process with your one shot. How about like uh, maybe previous experiences like I said earlier, like getting feedback from pro mangakas, like actual professionals with experience. Like what's that experience like for you?
You can get very nervous, like on the very first revisions, because it's your first time, let's say, and you don't know how they will, if they will understand what you're trying to communicate, if you will have to defend or justify the decisions you've made in the storyboard you're making. Um, but then you go into the session and they just go very gentle in a very gentle way and going through your storyboards and one might think that they can uh, say something that you might not like to hear, but
Mm,
at the end it's just something that you need to hear, and it's better if it comes out from a professional who knows what is doing, what she's doing, um, and then you know that it's gonna make your decision making go for the best. Um,
mm,
when I was in the revisions for this one, when I first showed my storyboard, they told me the first thing that they told me is this doesn't have enough detail or information for me to understand it. And I said, "Oh, it's crazy. I invested a lot of time in doing this, even it's not the best." I spent like 2 or 3 days making my first storyboard, and I submitted it. I got very little feedback from the coaches, and then I got into one of the mentor revisions, and I had already started rendering the first pages by that time. So I kind of I was working in a very accelerated way, but luckily I was told early to put enough information in the panels to not leave enough to imagination or not leave too much for the editor to go between the beat sheet and this and the storyboard and see if it matches or if it don't. And that's something that I had to hear and I had to learn, and I'm very grateful for it.
all right, all right. That's really, really nice. I mean, I just sit because I'm not a student, right? I just sit in during the sessions, but it's always nice to hear a pro's perspective about things, right? Because there's often things that I'm not the best artist, right? I mean, I don't draw that well, but I am interested in storytelling, right? And pro mangakas, they're not just pro artists, they're also pro storytellers, right? So they're multifaceted that way. That's what makes them so different, is that a lot of mangakas do when they first start out, right? They do the art and the story themselves. So they're a writer and an artist all in one. But once they get like more seasoned, right? That's when they start like working with a team, right? They have like a team behind them. But when they first start out, it's just them. And that's why I feel it's so amazing how mangakas manage to pull off such amazing works, like early on in their careers, like their first one shots, they did that all by themselves. They didn't get any help, but they still came out with such amazing stories, right? That went on to be greenlit into like these large series like Attack on Titan, One Piece, Death Note, all started out with one shots that were made by a single person. And then they went on to get greenlit into a series and are iconic mangas that you know today, right? So you can see like the potential there of what you can do if you just start, right? And you just keep practicing because you might stumble on something that, this is something that I want to do, and maybe this is something that other people would enjoy reading, right? So that's the whole point of practicing and actually starting. So, Hector, like what's it been like learning how to make manga alongside other aspiring mangakas like you in the program?
It has been a very good experience because, just like I said earlier, you meet a lot of people at different levels. Some are more experienced than you, some more are less experienced than you. Some of them draw digitally, some of them draw traditionally. Um, you can get to learn different stories and points of view and ideas, and some you get very inspired from that. Um, you can get a lot of support. You make some good friends. You can chat with strangers you never knew, but you get along very well in the mentoring sessions. Well, not in the mentoring section, but the coaching sessions where we get to draw like the Tsukikome contest or the two-page manga with one of the coaches. You get
Mm,
to create that companionship, that fellowship, better said. And like I said, sometimes you see people posting and posting and posting daily, and you say, "Oh my God, I'm feeling left behind, so I better get back to draw." Or
mm,
one thing that I like to say is, if you're going to compare, don't compare the results, but compare the process. And you can get very frustrated if you see the best artist in the community and then you compare it to your best drawing and you say, oh, I'm way behind. But
mm.
you can also see, oh, maybe he's that good or she's that good because it's putting a lot of effort, it's putting in more time than me, and so maybe I can get inspired from that and try to do more, not make it look like what the other person's doing, but make the same effort at least.
Exactly, exactly. That's what's nice about being a community like this, that you guys inspire each other, like, and challenge each other almost to like do better, right? And we had a question from chat, from Deathcon who asked, like, what's the summoned hero is just a peasant about, right? So your manga is titled The Summoned Hero is Just a Peasant, and it's an isekai manga. So could you expound, like, really quickly, a short premise, what the manga is about?
The manga is about a peasant who is doing whatever he does, he's minding his business, and all of a sudden he is summoned into a different world where there are no men. They have been all killed by demons. And he and the two girls that summon him are basically the last humanity stand in uh, trying to defeat the demons and create peace and maybe bring back the fallen men. Um, so that's basically the premise about it, and it's a something that was very natural and easy for me to develop because I fell in love with isekai stories, and yeah, it is so interesting for me, that kind of stories, that it was just easy to do, and it also matched with what I had in the prompts for Inktober.
All right. So, since joining, what's one skill you've leveled up most, like since joining the program? Could it be writing, paneling, inking, or something else?
It was definitely I'm gonna say two because one they
Mm,
cover different aspects of manga. The
yeah,
first
go
one
ahead.
was line art. Like my line art before joining the program was garbage. Digitally was garbage. Maybe on traditional I could defend myself, but on digital it was very messy, looked very sketchy. But doing the homeworks and getting feedback from the coaches and from other students, I improved a lot on my art. My line art, I feel a lot more confident now. And the other thing was paneling. Paneling was a nightmare for me, just like one person said in the chat earlier. The paneling is like a nightmare for me. Sometimes I ended up doing like 9 panels to say or to communicate one very simple thing, and just knowing to keep it simple, less is more, like we said earlier, and that's one of the most important lessons that I've learned.
All right. Now, like looking back, what would you tell your past self before you joined the program?
I would have I remember when doing the Inktober for 2022, no, 2023 and 2024, I
Mm,
consulted a lot of the YouTube videos that are on the channel,
mm,
from shading and perspective or multiple characters in one single shot, those kind of trainings that you have on the YouTube channel. And I remember watching the whole video and then going to the, oh, if you want to join us and actually learn from Pro, you should try it. So I would tell myself, you should have joined back then, so maybe you would now have more one shots made already.
So is it should have joined sooner. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy as well that you started out with our videos, right? Because I'm always I always need that extra validation that, okay, are our videos actually helping people? And that's why I read comments all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that people are expressing that, oh, this helped me. I learned something from this. It's always nice to hear that because it's the whole that's the whole point of this channel, right? Is that we help people learn how to draw manga. And I'm so glad that you learned something from our videos and that led you to us, right? That led you to our program. So for those of you who are like Hector and you want to start making manga, now's the time. You should join now. Because like Hector said himself, I should have joined sooner. Then if I did join sooner, then I could have been making even more mangas already at this point, right? But yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. So that said, like, do you have any advice for other beginners who are also thinking about creating their very first mangas, but are maybe hesitant for any reason?
Yeah, what I would just advise people is just go for it. There's nothing that you can do without a little practice, and if making just keep it simple and go for it. Like for me in this case, I knew my boundaries and I know that within those boundaries I can get very creative. It's like when I don't know if you watch the Legend of Aang, the Avatar cartoon, like when he's pushed into the back into a corner is when he releases the Avatar mode and then gets very
Oh,
powerful and almighty, and you kind of get this the same feeling when you were very limited about yourself, like I'm not gonna go for more than 5 panels in this page, so how
mm,
best can I tell how I'm a very lazy person, I'm gonna be honest. um and I also like to find shortcuts and easy ways, like I cut corners in some ways, and to keep it simple is the main thing. Like how best can I say or can I portray this scene, spending maybe 3 panels and not more, and then you
mm,
work from there, and you know you can learn a lot from that. And I would tell people, just if you're writing, just make sure you write your ideas down and then structure it correctly. If you're drawing and you don't write, maybe try doing jonkomas, like we do a lot of jonkomas in the program, which
yeah.
is basically a 4 panel manga. And you get a lot of learning through that. And just go for it. You have a character in mind, make a cool illustration about it, and then try to make a story for him or for her, for your them or whoever, and just do it, and then approach people who are having the same interest and ask them for feedback. Like I asked a lot of my friends, hey, I did this storyboard, like the storyboard I submitted to the program, I shared it with some of my friends that are reading manga every day, and
Yeah.
they are the experts consultants for me. Like they are very experienced in reading manga, that they've read so much more than me, and they know a thing or two. Like, oh, this part, this isn't so easy to read, so you might need to try something else, or maybe it could look better or more cool if you do it in this different angle as well. And that also helps.
Mm,
Like if you don't have the access to pro mentor, at least reach out to people who enjoy it, and also know, well, like have the experience to tell, oh, this is very, like this story is very easy to read because the speech bubbles follow in a very specific sequence, and then it's understandable. And yeah, just
yeah.
go for it. Be confident in your art and feel proud of yourself. Feel proud of your efforts, and that will keep you inspired to do more.
Yeah. I really like what you said about just do it and believe in yourself, right? Because certainly when a lot of mangakas start out, they have that some self-doubt, right? That, oh, can I really do this? Can I even succeed? Right? And no one can ever know for sure if they're ever going to succeed at something that they want to do, right? Be it getting a new job or just making manga and starting making manga, right? You never know how it's going to end up. But you'll never know unless you try, right? So you'll never know if you'll ever be good at making manga if you don't ever try to start making manga, right? So I think the important part is if you're someone who's never made manga before, like Hector, who before he joined the program was stuck and just never finished anything because of that level of self-doubt and also because of other things that might have been keeping him from focusing on making manga, then the important part is you have to develop that passion and that will to actually try and keep pushing forward despite the amount of effort and amount of practice it'll take to get to a point where, oh, this is a finished manga. You finally finish a manga and it's something that you enjoy. It may not be perfect, but at least it's something you enjoy, right? Because that's the whole point of creating is you create something that you enjoy and you feel like other people would enjoy. That's the extra special part about being a mangaka and telling stories through manga is that you're not just making art for yourself, you're not just making manga for yourself, but you're also making manga for other people to consume and to read, right? So that said, you guys, thank you so much, you guys, for sending in your questions. But we will be answering your questions at the Q&A at the end. So all of your questions are noted. We'll answer them during the Q&A, so sit tight. But real quick, if you guys haven't read our anthology yet, and you want to read Hector's manga in the full magazine, in the full anthology, then just head over to oneshot.learntodrawmanga.com. And again, Hector is only one of many of our amazing students who finished their one shot and got released in our anthology. So many students got their works published in our anthology. And one of them, we have one student here, Coco, and her manga, Star Runner, right? So from storyboard to final pages, Coco managed to make her manga from scratch in just 2.5 months, right? She didn't think she could do it. She didn't think she could finish on time and deliver a good manga, but she tried anyway and succeeded. And same goes for our student Hang and their manga Beyond the Horizon. Hang also just finished her manga in just 2 months, all while juggling a full-time job. And you see, Hang is a 3D artist and a biochemist from Switzerland, right? So super busy, but she joined our program anyway. And just last year, she already made so much progress. Look at her progress in just 2 months with her own one shot, right? And all of this just because she wanted to turn her passion for storytelling and manga into reality. And now look at what she's achieved, right? So she made the time, she made the effort, and it all paid off. And just like our student, Great Sage Manga, this is their progress in just a month, right? Like Hector, Sage managed to finish their manga in just a single month and release it in our anthology. And her passion for Lucha Libre, if you guys don't know, Lucha Libre is type of wrestling. It's a form of wrestling that's characterized by really colorful masks. Like the wrestlers wear really colorful masks and they don these really cool personas. And that's essentially what Lucha Libre is all about, right? And Sage essentially like made her manga about inspired by Lucha Libre. Like the title character, like Lucha Hero is luchador because like wrestlers in lucha libre are called luchadors, I think. And yeah, it's full of action, hijinks, a lot of ass kicking. So if you want to read more manga like this, and if you want to read this manga and you want to read all the other manga that I previously mentioned and Hector's manga, then please make sure to check out the full manga anthology, right? And plus, readers who read the full anthology and complete the reader survey will have a chance to win exciting manga creation prizes like Wacom drawing tablets, Clip Studio Paint subscriptions, and even a free spot in our one-shot manga drawing program. Okay, so you guys still have time to enter the giveaway since we will be announcing the winners on February 15. All right, and all you need to do to join is to go to oneshot.learntodrawmanga.com to read the anthology online for free. Second, complete the reader survey to vote for your favorite mangas and give feedback to your favorite mangakas in the anthology. And third, unlock the free one-shot manga starter kit PDF and enter the manga creation giveaway. So for everyone who completes the reader survey, they get a free manga starter kit. It includes our ideation sheet that'll walk you through what you need to do to come up with like a solid manga idea, right? So if you guys wanna get started on your manga, but you have no idea where to start, then our manga starter kit is a great way for you to start. All right. So if you want to get that freebie, then make sure to read the anthology and answer the reader survey. All right. So, you've heard all about Hector's journey. You've heard our students' progress with finishing their mangas, and this is only the beginning. This is just their starting line, you guys. This is only the start of their manga era. So, my question is do you guys want to start your manga era too? Do you want to finally make and finish your first one shot like our students did, like Hector did? And do you want to hope to get your manga in our next anthology? Because this is only our first anthology, but we will be releasing another edition, another volume of the anthology later this year. We haven't announced it yet, but I'm telling you guys here now, we are releasing another anthology with more works from more students in our program. So if you want to be a part of the anthology, the next anthology, then let me know. Do you guys want in too? Show of hands in chat. Like, if you raise your hand, if you want to start your manga era and finally make your own one-shot manga. And just so you guys know, the students in our program had the privilege of beginning their manga eras with the help and mentorship of pro Japanese mangakas and a pro manga editor on our team, like Nao Yazawa sensei. Now Yazawa is a professional Japanese manga artist with over 30 years of experience in the Japanese manga industry, and she's also the illustrator of the iconic manga turned anime known as Wedding Peach. And Yazawa sensei has authored her own how to draw manga books and teaches at a manga school in Tokyo, Japan. And we also have Renesaya Sensei, who is a Tokyo-based professional Japanese mangaka with over 20 years of experience in the Japanese manga industry. And she's also a manga author who's worked on 12 books with the Japanese publisher Shogakukan and is currently a freelance manga artist who teaches at a manga school in Tokyo, like Yazawa Sensei. And we also have a pro webtoon artist on staff, Steph Pastrano, who is known for his amazing anime and manga fan art, but is also currently a freelance artist and a webtoon artist and creator of his own ongoing line, Webtoon, right? And the latest addition to our mentor roster is Vivi, who is a pro manga editor with over 10 years of experience, right? She's worked with editorial teams for titles like Record of Ragnarok and Unsung Cinderella, and she's also worked with Coamix, the host of the largest international manga competition, the Silent Manga Edition, and the publisher Kadokawa, the publisher behind titles like Bungo Stray Dogs and Lucky Star, right? So, for the most committed and high-performing students in our program, you don't just get access to mentorship from these amazing mentors, but you could also get a chance to go to Japan, right? If you get into the program and if you perform well, then you can get a chance to fly to Japan on an all-expense paid trip to attend Comitia, which is a top indie manga convention in Tokyo. And you could also pitch your manga directly to Japanese publishers and editors at Comitia, right? And another thing is you could also publish your manga in our official Learn to Draw Manga anthology, right? If you join the program. So again, if you want to finally make and finish your first one shot and potentially release it in our next anthology, then go ahead and book a free manga roadmap call with us. Okay? If you're serious about making your first one shot manga in the next 6 to 12 months with mentorship from pro Japanese mangakas and a pro manga editor, then this is your time. Book a free manga roadmap call with us, and we'll help you map your one shot with you for free. And we only have 10 slots left this month. So book now while the month is still here, while January is still here, because January is almost ending, you guys. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't have a story, I don't really have an idea that I can talk about, then that's fine, right? Even if you don't have a story yet, or you think you can't draw well enough yet, then we'll walk you through the ideation phase, story structure, thumbnails, paneling, and production step by step, right? You won't be working alone, okay? So don't worry about that. You'll get feedback. And once you join the program, you'll get weekly live feedback from working with Japanese mangakas and again, a pro manga editor who've already guided hundreds of students through their first finished mangas in our program. So check out the link in the description to book a free manga roadmap call with us today. All right, take this chance now to start your manga era. That said, I am opening the floor to questions from you guys. And real quick, before we get to the questions for Hector, um, there's this question from Gabe Gecko Soul. If you were rejected by the program, can you still enter the giveaway? Yes, you can still enter the giveaway even if you were rejected from the program. All right. So if you were rejected because you were below 18 years old, then you won't be eligible for the giveaway, but you can still answer the reader survey and get our freebie one-shot manga starter kit, right? So anyone can read the anthology, anyone can answer the survey, regardless of what your age is. But people who are of age, 18 years old and above, and answer the survey, those are the only people who are eligible for the giveaway, right? So again, anyone can answer the survey, but not everyone will be eligible for the giveaway. All right. So, to clarify, I meet the age requirement, all the other technical activities. Trish said I wasn't making manga, so I couldn't join. Oh, okay. So yes, you will still be eligible for the giveaway if you still answer the reader survey, right? So if you want to join the giveaway, you would still and meet the age requirements and the location requirements, then you will be eligible. So you can definitely join Cave Gecko. All right. So there were a couple of questions earlier for Hector. All right. So there's one from Claire. Hector, despite finishing, does the struggle of working on a new story, page, or panel still be frustrating? Has that ever happened to you? I think that's what she is asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think unless you spend a lot of years on in doing this kind of thing, you will not, end up without frustration. But to be honest, I still struggle to this day. When I'm making a thumbnail or a storyboard, I have to do like two or three layouts that I until I feel comfortable with what I'm sharing. And once I submit that to a revision, I'm gonna very probably ask to replace or to rework some of that. But doesn't matter. The thing is that you are doing something, and that gets you in. It's like when you were born, you could have died right there. Sorry for my words, but you survived. When you
Yeah.
went to school for the first time, you were very scared and you didn't want to leave your mom, maybe, but you still went and you survived. So it's not that's not gonna be the end of the world if you do something that you don't end up liking. You can always try again, and you don't always get the relief from frustration. Sometimes you just have to bear with it and say, oh, I don't
Mm.
feel so happy about it, but I'm gonna keep going. That's one of the key things. And you get more experience, and as you do more, you get more confidence, and that also helps you mitigate that frustration. But I don't think it ever goes away. But that's also
Yeah.
exciting because it's you kind of think, oh, I'm getting frustrated by that, but maybe it's because I'm expanding my horizons. I'm going above my skill level and I'm going to a new kind of level that I never known before. I was just watching Black Clover before this interview,
Mm.
and one of the characters says, "Oh, you interrupted me from beating three other characters that show up. I was gonna rise myself to a new level by defeating them, but you interrupted me. So it's that kind of thing. Take it as a challenge, and you will rise above whatever block you're having in front of you.
That really, really well said. I really like how your tackle frustration essentially, because yes, I do agree, frustration never goes away, right? Maybe you're frustrated once and the next time maybe it's not as frustrating, but it just never completely goes away because that's what I think that's one of the things about artists is that they're just constantly aspiring to do better, right? They're not always satisfied with anything that they finish because there's always something to improve on, right? There's always something. That's why that frustration never goes away. And I like how you said that it's not about dwelling on the frustration, but how you work through it, right? And how you tackle that frustration. And instead of letting it stump you and letting it prevent you from moving forward, like let it challenge you, right? If you think of the frustration as, oh, okay, this is frustrating, but that just means, oh, I can definitely do better and I can definitely rise above it, right? So I think that's a really good mindset to have, which you guys should take note of. Okay. So even if it does get super frustrating, like this is only one hurdle, right? There are going to be multiple hurdles after this. So it's not that big of a deal. Once you think in the moment, it might feel like, oh, this is the most frustrating thing ever. This is the hardest thing ever. In the moment, it may feel like that, but it really isn't. Because what's important is that, okay, this may be frustrating, but I'm still going to do it anyway. And I'm going to try to work through it anyway because I want to finish this. I want to finish this manga, right? So that's the most important thing that you have to keep in mind that even though you get frustrated, you have to work through it still, right? And try to rise above it. And we have another question from A25. Do you think engaging with multiple mediums of art and storytelling, like music and literature, have improved your own work? And how do you draw inspiration from all of these things?
Well, reading a good story, like a good book, always kind of makes you imagine what the story is about, and that creates a mental library in your head. So whenever you're drawing, you can refer to those to that imagination. That works for me at least. Looking at pieces of art, like museum type pieces of art, that also helps like understanding compositions and putting the multiple characters in one panel or in one page. uh, Music inspires me a lot. I most do most of my work listening to music. I am a heavy metal musician, so that keeps me uplifted and with a lot of ambition and willing to do things. Um, and one thing that was recommended by our mentor Vivi was that you should not only enjoy a certain type of entertainment, like if I only watch manga, that's gonna limit whatever I can share. She asked us to watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of documentaries, read other media that is not manga or comics, so that you get more like I said earlier, more things in your head that you can work on, um, and then put that into paper in a much easier way.
Mhm. That's really interesting. And you did mention early on in the interviews that you do a lot of things. You have a lot of hobbies, right? You play music, you engage in sports, like you exercise, right? A lot of I think that's really important as a creative. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a mangaka. You could be a writer, you could just be like a storyteller. But it's very important to get time away from the creative process every once in a while, right? Because again, there are going to be moments where you run into like a wall and you just don't feel like you can be productive or do anything, right? So you get these like blocks from time to time as you're creating manga. So once you get these blocks and once you feel like okay, the frustration is too fresh at this point, then it's important to like take a step back and maybe do something else for a bit and then come back to making your manga, right? Because if you just focus on your manga all the time, then of course
Yeah,
you're
you get
gonna
tired of it.
yeah, of course you're gonna burn out, right? You get tired of it, you're gonna burn out and you're just gonna the frustration is just never ending and you just like throw in the towel, right? And that's how a lot of beginners like end up giving up is that they're just so hyper focused on finishing their manga on their first try that they don't think to set more realistic expectations for themselves, right? Because it's not realistic to just focus on your manga 24/7 on your first try, right? Because like you got to have your own life outside of it. Like making manga at the end of the day, it isn't your whole life. It isn't everything, right? So if you want to keep that passion for making manga alive, right? If it even if it isn't everything, it's still something you love. So if you want to keep that passion alive, then you got to take breaks from it. So it's important to have like expose yourself to other mediums outside of manga. That way you don't get frustrated. Like Hector said, like music, right? And maybe other hobbies as well that could inspire you and like rejuvenate you, right? All right. And we had another question from Claire. Oh, sorry, real quick. Before Claire, there was another question prior to that. From Cerebral. In case I don't get accepted this month, can I try again the following month or sometime later? Cerebral, by accepted, do you mean accepted into the program or accepted into the giveaway? Because I'm not so sure. If you mean accepted into the program, then you can definitely try again. Once you um, depending on how your conversation with Trisha went, Trisha is the boss of the program, right? So depending on how your conversation with Trisha went, then you can try again next month for sure. Oh, okay, the program. Yeah, you can always try again. If the reason why you weren't accepted was because like maybe Trisha didn't feel like you were ready for it, then you can always try again next month. That's for sure. We'll always open spots again in the program. All right. From Claire, another question. In doing this one shot, besides the consultations, did you do everything from storyboarding to publishing? Oh, okay. So I think she just wants to clarify like just how involved you were, Hector, in making this one shot. Like, can you describe like everything you did to make this one shot?
Yeah, basically it was all me. And it definitely doesn't hurt to look at references, especially for things that you are not used to drawing. Like for
Mm,
instance, there's a deer in one of the in the second page. If you read my one shot, when you read it, you'll see a deer there. I definitely took that from a reference. But my mental library is huge. That's something I am proud of myself. Like consuming comic books, manga, and movies, TV shows, and all of that for a long time. Um, Really fed my brain so that I don't have to look at reference anymore, but most of the times. But there are also some complicated poses or different angles or short foreshortening, and I had to look for references that. But I had no assistance whatsoever in writing the story, and maybe having someone make the backgrounds for me if that's what you were asking. No, I basically did everything by myself, and yeah, I'm very proud of it.
as you should be. Hector. All right. So I think that's all the time we have for today, you guys, for questions. And you definitely should be proud of yourself, Hector. Again, you guys, let's give a round of applause for Hector for finishing his first one shot for the anthology. It's an amazing, amazing feat. And I can't wait to see more mangas from you in the future, Hector. So could you maybe any last words that you'd like to tell our audience before we end today's session?
Yeah, there's a chart that I saw on the social media recently, and it's basically a chart like this, like an X and Y axis with a
Mm-hmm.
diagonal, and it says
Mm.
like the more you fuck around, the more you learn, and you go like this. And basically, doing this one shot made me learn a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Like I only knew how to use two brushes in the digital program that I was using, but
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to use the screen tones. I learned how to create a template for my pages. I learned a lot of compositioning, and I wouldn't done that if I hadn't put myself to do it. So I want to encourage all of you who want to create a story, have something in your mind you want to tell it, or maybe if you're a great artist but you don't have a story, partner up with a person that has a story and make it happen. I basically encourage all of you, and if you want to really shortcut and work from a scaffolding and not from the ground level, join the program and you will progress a lot faster.
All right. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much, Hector. And you guys, please go ahead and read Hector's full manga in our anthology. Just go ahead to oneshot.learntodrawmanga.com where you can read Hector's manga and also so many other mangas from our other amazing students. All right. So, with that said, I do want to leave you guys with this question. Just imagine, what will you be tomorrow if you start today? If you start making manga today? Right? I think this is something that Hector touched on just a few minutes ago, where, oh, I wish I could have started sooner because then I would have made like a ton of mangas already by now, right? So just even starting now, just imagine how much progress you can make in just maybe 5 weeks, like Hector did, right? Hector finished his first one shot in 5 weeks. So imagine what you could do with double that time, right? Maybe 2 months or maybe like 3 months, right? That's still plenty of time to make your first one shot. Like some of you may be thinking, oh, it might take me years to finish my first manga, my first one shot and stuff like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to take that long, right? Because you can finish your first one shot as soon as now, right? As long as you have the will and you have the commitment and you're willing to put in the hard work, right? Because students like Hector joined our program months ago, last year, and now they've already made significant improvements in their art and storytelling skills. And that could be you, right? You can do it too if you just take the leap and sign up to our one-shot manga drawing program. Just book a free manga roadmap call with us today. And again, we only have 10 slots left for this month. So go ahead and book your call now. All right. But in the meantime, please again go ahead and read the full anthology and answer the reader survey if you want to join the giveaway and win drawing tablets and studio paint subscriptions and and a spot in our one-shot manga drawing program, okay? And also we have more upcoming live interviews in the next couple of weeks. We'll be interviewing even more creators from the anthology if you want to learn more about people's processes, what it was like making their first one shots. We're going to be talking to students who finished their one shots in 2 months, in 3 months, right? So if you want to learn more about how they made it and how they did it, then please tune in to next week's live stream. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Hector, for being here. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next week. All right. So bye, everyone. Thank you so much for
Goodbye,
joining.
everybody. See you in the program.
That's right. See you in the program, you guys. You heard it from Hector. All right. Bye, you guys. See you next week.